Wow, Skyler, that is just a really tough question. I didn't even want Skyler hired. She was 15.
Mostly growing as a person. Like, I don't think that I would be where I am or who I am without this place.
So if you're just trying to reach your potential, you're limiting your potential.
Right.
If you're chasing your potential, you realize it's limitless, which means you've got a runway to chase. I see potential in everything, and I see potential in everyone. If you are used to that very strong espresso, you'll come have ours and you'll think that it's weak. It's not weak. It has the same or more caffeine content in it, but it is a smoother blend of beans in general. It used to be, do you want to live to work or work to live? And I watched it go from a generation of live to work to a generation that says they want to work to live. Hi, Skyler.
Hi, Jason.
All right, and we are back for another episode of our Documenting the Journey, Chapter 2. And I've done quite a few interviews, but I've actually been looking forward to this one. Skyler, how long have you worked for me?
About 6 years.
6 years. And I didn't even want Skyler hired. She was 15. And I was leery of hiring a 15-year-old. Then I found out that she literally lived in a house that was hundreds of feet from the house that I lived in growing up here in Indianapolis. So I knew that she wouldn't have a problem getting to work because I knew it was walking distance. It was actually a shorter walk than my first job when I lived in that housing addition. And it's been a journey. I think that you have grown as the business has grown, as we have all grown in general.
Definitely.
Because it took a couple of years, but you became the most qualified person in the entire business, basically capable of running any or all pieces of it. That's when you look at the complexity of our menu between the coffee side and the pizza side, that is that should be a point of pride, because it is definitely a feat to train across all those different pieces of the business. Okay, so let's get right into this. We'll just see how these questions go.
Okay, so the first one's a two-parter.
Okay.
What is your biggest pet peeve in your personal life?
My biggest pet peeve in my personal life. I automatically go back to what has caused the problems and the division between me and all of my family members. I don't like sweeping things under the rug. I think that is the problem with blood families, is that they expect people to, much like training a dog, if you let a dog get away with a shitty action, the dog will just continue to perpetuate and do that shitty action. And it is expected with family that you can wrong family, you can treat them like shit, you can do and say bad things, and then family just expects that time should pass and you should just sweep it under the rug and act like it didn't happen. And to me, like training a dog, when you sweep it under the rug, you are giving them a runway to do it to you all over again. I refuse to sweep things under a rug. You know what? Relationships are messy. Sometimes mistakes are made that I think that you should be human enough to admit your mistakes, apologize, and that opens the door to moving forward. But doing a shitty thing and then expecting that time should just pass and that individual should forget that and act like it didn't happen, I'm not built that way.
Yeah.
So in my personal life and generally in business, I can forget about things. I can forgive many things. but I can slide nothing under the rug.
Right.
It should be addressed in some way so that you can move past it, because that's like skeletons in the closet. And I have many people in my personal life that either we're not friends or we're not family in the traditional sense, because they think that I should slide things under the rug. And my character and my principles, I'm not built that way, and I refuse to do it. And if that means that I can't have relationships with certain people for my own mental health, I'm perfectly fine with it, because if I make a mistake, I'm willing to admit it. I'm willing to apologize and ask for forgiveness, and ask strong communication skills to say, can we move past this? But I don't do anything shitty and expect somebody to sweep it under the rug. And through reciprocity, I don't think that I should have to accept that either.
Yeah. So what's your biggest pet peeve like in business? Like if you walk into a store, what's something that would like just automatically make you irritated or frustrated?
Are we talking about inside of my own stores?
Yes.
We've developed systems and processes to duplicate consistency.
Right.
But you know that you can walk into a store and know whether somebody is prideful about the work that they're doing.
Yep.
So if I walk in and I see sloppy, I see it's not being prideful. If you're not being prideful, I look at these businesses, these brands as my children,
Right.
which means you're being a sloppy caretaker, which means I want to strangle you because I look at them as my children.
Yeah.
And it's not about the systems and the processes. It's about, if you have a basic understanding of what you're doing, there's a right way and a wrong way, but there is a way that you take those extra steps and add that extra love and care to the drink that you're making or the pizza that you're building.
Right.
Or you're just in here to earn a paycheck. And after 20 years and hiring and firing, hiring hundreds, I don't want to say add to the firing, because I have not fired many people. I have that energy about me that I either attract you or I repel you.
Right.
The people that don't take pride and see that their work is more about their personal character than the job that they're actually doing, those are the people that I repel, because I think how you do one thing is how you do everything. Mm-hmm. And I think that when I do something, I'm pridefully thinking about my own personal character and reputation being built into whatever I'm doing.
Yep.
And I think that has served me well as a human being. Mm-hmm. So when I see other people half-assing and being sloppy and not being prideful, it gets under my skin. One, because I know all they're doing is creating a harder road for themselves.
Yep.
But in my business, I know that it's having a direct impact and effect on the customer and on the job security of everybody else that's in the store.
Yep.
And when you've got 10 people that truly care, they shouldn't have to walk in and see that they have to work with somebody that doesn't care.
Right.
And that's,
yeah. Definitely. How do you personally measure success in your businesses?
How do I personally measure success? That is such a tricky question, because success can be measured by so many different metrics.
Right.
There's no one. When I say there's no one, you can measure success sadly, by your Google reviews.
Right.
Because that's that honest feedback that you look at. Sadly, I also know that I have fired and gotten into it with a couple, in my opinion, trash previous employees, and they went and found trash friends to give bad Google reviews. So it's not the clearest form of, and then the capitalistic version of me is like, how do I measure success? Well, I don't know. Is there $1 more in my bank account this month than there was 30 days ago?
Right.
But then you get into is the team stronger today than it was yesterday? Are you controlling your cost and waste better today than you were yesterday? Is the loyalty of your customer base, thereby the frequency of their visits, increasing or decreasing? I think that it just comes down to what's most important to you. And then I go back to the book, the Compassionate Capitalist. And what I'm saying is success is measured on many more levels than the bottom line of what ends up in the bank account. Mm-hmm. Sadly, if there's not more money in the bank account next month than there is this month, then it's not worth the effort that you're putting in to manage the level of risk and responsibility that you take on. And as many times as I have tried to explain to all of you that a dollar coming in is not a dollar in my pocket. Right. In the truest sense of competition and being in business, it is the biggest metric, because honestly, if you are a compassionate capitalist, you need more money in the bank so that you can reinvest in your team, in your equipment, in your operation. Yeah, as long as you're a decent person, I still think that it's going to come back to you've got to be profitable in order to be able to pursue the other pieces that should be just as important as profitability.
What do you consider your biggest weakness?
I'm trying to put thought into this because I got many weaknesses. Wow, Skyler, that is just a really tough question.
One of those SpongeBob's.
No, the thing is, I mean, and maybe something else will pop into my head, but I guess what I want to say, because I feel like this is one of those moments where you should be able to be self-deprecating. I believe in chasing your potential. Mm-hmm. And one of the misnomers of people is that self-talk matters. So if you're just trying to reach your potential, you're limiting your potential. Right. If you're chasing your potential, you realize it's limitless, which means you've got a runway to chase. I see potential in everything, and I see potential in everyone, and I am the enabler that I want to fuel that and be like, you have potential, chase your potential. And then I want those people to align with me or align with the business. Mm-hmm. So few people truly want to chase their potential. Right. So I have cycled a bunch of people through that we've had to give up on. Mm-hmm. And it has had such a dramatic effect on the team as a whole, because I want to enable that. Everybody deserves a second chance in life. And if you're ready to chase your potential, come be a part of this team. And since so few of them are truly willing to chase their potential, it ends up being there's an emotional cost on all of you and me by bringing them in and letting their energy inevitably have a negative effect on the overall group itself. Because I want to instinctively believe in people. And I go back to because I know that I'm a decent person and I have screwed up so many times, but I know that I'm a decent person, that I've needed that second chance. Right. I was just ready to chase my potential and show that I was worth being given a second chance. I was worth supporting even in the face of colossal disasters. So I want to believe everybody is like that. And sadly, everybody is not like that. Most people, it used to be, do you want to live to work or work to live? And I watched it go from a generation of live to work to a generation that says they want to work to live. But that means you're working just enough to be able to fuel doing what you want. And then when you get over to doing what you want, they don't do. They sit there and do nothing. And I'm like, you're not doing either one of these tracks well. It's not work just to have enough to put a roof over your head and then sit at home on a couch and live an unfulfilling, non-existent life. I don't, my brain, I can't reconcile that.
Yeah.
I work 7 days a week because I get anxiety if I feel like I'm spending too much time being lazy.
Yep.
There are times after an extreme amount of work that I'm like, I need to go sit by a body of water and do what most people would consider lazy. To me, that's recharging my battery so that I can get back to it.
Right.
But if I'm just sitting at home doing nothing, I start feeling that anxiety because I'm not doing something productive that is moving my life forward to being a more fulfilling life, so that it's not even about does my existence matter to other people. I want my existence to matter to myself, which means you've always got to be doing something to move your life forward. I don't want to live with that anxiety of either not being able to say my work defines me or what I do in my personal life defines me. Because if you're not doing anything in your personal life but you don't want to work, then that's not going to lead to good mental health because you're not doing anything that defines you.
Right. In your opinion, what makes a good leader?
You'd think that I'd just be able to rattle this off. I can't. And I say that because, like, I think Rebecca is a good leader. Mm-hmm. Her and I are polar opposites.
Right.
She has shown me that her leadership style can still produce a good result.
Right.
I don't agree with it at all. Mm-hmm. I cringe when I'm beside her, watching her lead in her style.
Right.
Because it don't work for me at all. But it's like, what is good? Well, I think that there are many paths to becoming a good leader, and it's finding your own style that works for you. Mm-hmm. But in generality, the same thing that leads to a successful life, I think is going to lead to a successful leader. And I can be an ass about it and be like, are you willing to own your shit?
Right.
Or be politically correct about it and say, are you willing to hold yourself accountable? Because you cannot hold anybody else accountable in any stage of life or business if you're not willing to hold yourself accountable. Because one of the things that gets under my skin in general is hypocrisy. So watching somebody be a hypocrite and say, do as I say, not as I do, that doesn't resonate with me.
Yeah. So
in leadership, I'm sitting there going, you're a role model in a sense. You are a figurehead. You are setting an example for how other people should live their life or how other people should work. Mm-hmm. So as a leader, you should be looking to do it better than everybody else does it, to raise the bar so that you can encourage other people to raise the bar. And I think that if a group of people operates at a higher standard, they're going to be rewarded at a higher level in some fashion. Because some people will see this and they'll be like, nope, I work for a piece of shit and I operate up here and they don't reward me for that. Mm-hmm. Well, I get that. But if you operate up here, are you being rewarded with the customer because you're giving them a higher level of service? Right. And are they showing you a higher level of appreciation or gratitude? So I don't necessarily, that person would be right. There are good and there are bad employers in general, but it's not about that. That comes back to that personal character. If you are operating at a higher level, you are raising the bar and you are setting the tone for other people to say, hey, I'm up here. Why don't you come up here and visit me? The air's thinner up here. It's harder to compete up here, but it's more gratifying because you're able to look at yourself in the mirror with a higher level of pride, knowing you care on an above average level. You take things more seriously on an above average level. Mm-hmm. And I just think that people that raise their standards to above average standards without being a perfectionist, generally live above average lives.
How do you deal with failure?
How do I deal with failure? Instinctively, I want to kick myself in the ass to the point that I end up in a corner, in a box, covering my face, hoping that nobody saw the mistake.
Right.
But I know that that's not healthy. So I have to shine a light on the mistake. Mm-hmm. I have to sort through the problem to find the mistake so that I don't make it again, because I know deep down it's okay to make a mistake. Mistakes are learning lessons. Just don't make the mistake a second or a third time, because then that shows your lack of intelligence. Mm-hmm. Regret is one of the biggest paralyzers in life. So I'm always reminding myself, you've made a lot of mistakes. You're going to make more mistakes. It's okay. It's important to reflect on them, but don't regret. Mm-hmm. And mentally in my head, I remind myself, mistakes are actions. Carry that over to social media.
Right.
You post on social media, it's going to be buried by 1,000 other posts quickly.
Yeah.
So if you're living your life and you're walking down the road, you're going to make many mistakes. But when you make 100 mistakes, if you're still focusing on the first mistake, then you're just creating a dumpster of mistakes to waller in grief.
Yeah.
I forget. I reflect. I find the lesson, and then I forget that it ever happened.
Yeah.
And I just know I have a very long list of mistakes that I've made, but I don't focus on them because I've logged the lesson so that I don't continue to make the same mistake twice. But the point is, I don't look at mistakes in a negative way. I don't look at them as failure.
Right.
Failure only happens when you quit.
Yeah.
Mistakes are good as long as you are actively learning from them, because the people that I see continually making the same mistakes, those are the people that I know I don't want anywhere near me, because they have not gotten it. The it in life that mental health is being conscious of your energy and the energy that you let near you. And if somebody shows a propensity to always continue making the same mistakes, then they have negative energy that you don't need to let anywhere near you.
How have your priorities changed from when you first started the business until now? Or have they changed?
No, they have. Really. I don't think, I didn't place a high enough value on time when I was younger. I thought time is the one thing that doesn't have a cost. I don't have money to give, so I can give my time.
Yeah.
Today, I am a lot more conscious of where I direct my time, because it's where I direct my attention. That's where I direct my emotional and mental well-being. Mm-hmm. So I think at this point I've gotten to a point where I'm a lot more protective of my time, because I understand that in life, your entire life is going to be determined by what kind of mental health you have. Mm-hmm. I have no desire to take pills. I have no desire for a shrink to break me down and tell me how screwed up I am, because I know I'm broken in my own way. Mm-hmm. But I need good mental health. So I protect my time, and I protect who I surround myself with. And I didn't when I was younger. Right. And it is my priorities. It's really hard, because it's like what my priorities were in my 20s changed when I was in my 30s, and changed again when I was in my 40s. I'm still proudly in my 40s, but I'm getting ready to go into the 50s. And it has changed to the point where as time has went on, I'm prioritizing my time, attention, focus, and my personal bubble. And it's like, I hear people joking about that. It's not about that for me. It is my personal bubble is my energy. I want my energy to be positive because when I get next to somebody else, I want my positive energy to wear off on them.
Right.
But I also know you can feel people's energy. And if I see that somebody's got negative energy, I'm like, I don't want that anywhere near me. So prioritizing my time, attention, and focus has become a lot more important.
What keeps you motivated?
I had somebody else ask me this. You should not be an entrepreneur if you need external motivation, because you will always come across people like me. I've always been motivated.
Right.
It's an internal motor inside of me, like a nuclear plant that once it got turned on, it is never shut off. And if I don't keep water on it, I'll burn it all down because I'm wired that hot.
Right.
I never need motivation. There have been people that can stoke my competitive flames, and I'm like, if you get me mentally there, look out, because I'm about ready to steamroll you, because if I get in that mode, there's no stopping me, because I have a fuel inside of me that I can call upon at any point, and I know that fuel is 1,000 times hotter than the average person exists in their life in general. I don't know where it came from. I don't necessarily know what fuels it. I know it has always been there, and I have looked for ways to calm it down so that I can feel a semblance of normal, so that I can get a good night's sleep. But I know that I don't need that good night's sleep. I know that I can function on minutes worth of sleep in a 24-hour period. Not because I want to. I'm saying I know that fire in me is so freaking hot that it doesn't even need sleep to outdo the vast majority of people. And I'm not saying I'm better than you. I'm different, and any successful entrepreneur will resonate and know exactly what I'm saying. The vast majority of really successful entrepreneurs, they're a little broken, they're a little crazy, and they are wired. We are wired so hot that our energy radiates whether we intend it to or not. I'm trying to think of the book that I read. It had the word manic in it. Psychomanic, what is it? Hypermanic edge, maybe? Damn it, now this has got me. A book with the title Manic Edge. The Hypomanic Edge. Yeah, it popped right up. So there was a book written called The Hypomanic Edge. And if you question whether you're built for entrepreneurship, I think that everybody should read it. But the point that they were making in the book was that all of the greats are a little bit crazy. It's that, again, they're not special. We're just wired a little bit different. And if you go back and you look at all of the greats, whether it is ADHD or OCD or any number of the other things that you want to put a label to, it's the ability to take what other people see as weakness and turn it into a strength. Perfect example. I thrive on anxiety.
Right.
Anxiety tells me where I need to be focusing my attention. Most people are like, I have anxiety. I need to go to a doctor and get on a pill that will take away my anxiety. Okay, I tried that with, not THC.
CBD.
I tried that with CBD, dosing under my tongue. I don't know if you remember, but I know he remembers. I took that, and it was like, when I took it at night, it would help me sleep. If I took it during the day, It totally wiped out all of my anxiety. The business could have burnt down and I'd have just stood there and watched it. My anxiety is my friend. I use it as a tool. It lets me know where to focus my attention. It's like that extra radar that lets me know where a problem is. And most people run away from their anxiety. And when I start feeling it, it's like I know my spidey senses need to go up because there's a problem that I need to be focusing on. And I'm all about solving problems. And most of the time, the problems that need to be solved, those are the problems everybody else is trying to hide and sweep under the rug. And I will feel that, and I will go search to start finding, I know there's a problem here. Where is the problem? And I will start digging and I will start probing to find the actual problem itself. My anxiety is my friend, and I use it as a tool to excel and succeed where most people see it as something to run from and suppress.
Yeah. Okay, so my brand question is, what made you want to start the podcast, and where do you see the podcast going in the future?
I wanted to start the podcast because too many people romanticize and fantasize about entrepreneurship, and they think it's like winning the lottery. And then you have people out there that are like, oh, you own a business, you must be a millionaire. And it was a desire to be honest and give people the real truth of what being in business is, and candidly tell people in a high likelihood, you're not built for it, you shouldn't do it, and I'm actually trying to save you pain, because most people do not see the wake of destruction in all of the entrepreneurial paths. When 99 out of 100 fail, and just because you fail does not mean you are relieved of the responsibilities that you started when you started your entrepreneurial journey. The destruction and the pain doesn't stop when you decide that you want to stop.
Right.
The government wrote the laws to exempt themselves from the laws. So if you think that you're going to go into entrepreneurship and you're going to put your life savings into something, and when it doesn't work out, you're just going to say, I'm done with this, I'm going to go back to work for somebody else. In the process of all of that, you have created other liabilities with the government. So when you fail and you lose everything, your losses do not stop there.
Right.
You still have to wind down the business, and the government still wants their money whether you have it to give or not. So it extends the pain and the destruction, and it doesn't just affect your life, it affects everybody else's life that is inside of your world in general. And my belief is the vast majority of the time, had you analyzed yourself and understood what you were getting into, you would have realized you never should have went down that path to begin with.
Yeah.
I want to be real, and the podcast was my platform to be real about what an actual entrepreneurial journey is, what it looks like, the pain and the pitfalls that are involved. And I've said this in the past. In the end, it's like, just like all kids judge their parents, my kids know one side of me. I don't know if their kids will ever know me, but I know that I'm being honest and real on that podcast and in my social media, because I don't know how to be any other way. I am me no matter what setting that I'm in. But the podcast is a documented library of things that I was going through as I was going through them. They will always exist in that library. So if my kids are able to go back and understand me on a deeper level by listening to them later on, okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
If I'm able to help somebody else in their entrepreneurial journey, okay, that's cool. To answer the second side of it, of where do I see the podcast going, I'll be honest, I don't know that it goes anywhere. And when I say I don't know that it goes anywhere, it's a pet project. I think there was a statistic that about entrepreneurship, 99 out of 100 people don't ever put out not even a dozen episodes.
Yeah.
I've put out over 100 episodes. And there's a couple podcasters that I consume their content on a regular basis.
Yep.
I can feel their passion.
Mm-hmm.
They found their calling. Their calling is to be a podcaster.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I gravitate towards, that because I'm after the information that they're disseminating, but I can feel their passion in their channel.
Right.
I don't have that same passion, or at least I'm not feeling that passion right now.
Mm-hmm.
That passion with me has always been geared towards my entrepreneurial journey, towards Coffee Junkiez and Pizza Junkiez, and where we come back to the being conscious of where my time and attention is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to do anything that I feel like I'm forcing it.
Right.
I have had several times that I've had in my head where I've constructed a podcast, but I wasn't motivated enough to go actually make the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Because my passion is not in podcasting. I've really enjoyed some of the podcasts that I've done where I've been interviewed in other people's podcasts.
Right.
But I can feel their passion for being in podcasting. So I don't know, because it might be just a chapter and a season of my life. And because I have started the podcast, because I have put out 100 episodes in the platforms there, that I come back to it because I find it's seasonality, the ebbs and flows, where there's a part of me that it's my job to be a coach and to have the experience and the wisdom to bring back to our internal team. Mm-hmm. That's not podcasting. That is educational information dissemination for the world, that they consciously decide they want to come to you and consume that information. Mm-hmm. Maybe in a different season or a different chapter of my life, I find a deeper passion in it, but that will likely be once some of my other passions that are truly a priority wind down.
Right.
And I've got more time where I can put more attention into it.
Okay. My last question is about a product. So the first question about the product is, have we always ordered the beans from where we order them from now?
No. Another mistake.
Okay.
And I say a mistake. You should never burn down bridges that you might have to cross later.
Yep.
Mistakes were made that caused me to have to, I hate putting it like that. Mistakes that I made caused actions that caused a bridge to be burned.
Okay.
I have to own that.
Right.
I did not purposely put a fire or put a match to the bridge.
Right.
But I had wrong. I made mistakes, and it caused the destruction of a relationship. I had value of that relationship. It was just happenings in business in general. When I moved to another roaster was when there was almost another layer of, not only are you dealing with people in this industry, the people run their businesses differently, and it was like another level of appreciation to say, I don't really think that you realize just how much more you should have been valuing this relationship and how much more pain you should have been willing to endure for the bigger value of the relationship.
Right.
But no, and I mean, in 20 years, we've only had 2 roasters, but it's regrettable that I lost the first relationship. And the second relationship is a good relationship, but I can look back and say, I wish that we would have been able to repair and reconcile our differences without burning that bridge down. I don't have any problems with our roaster. No. Now they put out a good product, but I really value relationships, and I can look back and I can say that I took actions that put the relationship in jeopardy. They overreacted. I overreacted. They overreacted. I overreacted. We burn a bridge.
Okay.
And many times You'll do that in life, and then you'll grow and you'll reflect and you'll be like, damn, I wish I wouldn't have said that. I wish he wouldn't have did that because that caused me to do this. And that's life and that's relationships. You reflect and you look for the lessons and you're like, again, don't make that same mistake twice. Coffee Junkiez has now had 2 roasters, and I've even thought about bringing the roasting as my own learning journey about the bean or the berry has refined. It's like I've thought that due to having our own distribution to bring the roasting in-house, just for my roaster does not offer some things like the original roaster. They would take my bean and they would grind it and they would package it in 2-ounce bricks or half pound or whole pound ground or whole bean in my packaging for me. When I went to my second roaster, they didn't offer those services. They were not equipped and outfitted that way.
Right.
My original roaster, I was able to order a lot of my base products so that when the beans came, all of these extra products came.
Right.
The new roaster did not offer all of those extra services. And these are things that you learn the ins and the outs of the industry and the industry insiders. You learn it through time in the industry in general. And then you can look back and be like, yeah, I screwed that up. And I mean, and it's funny, you're asking me this. My original roaster is in Ohio.
Okay.
I am in Indiana. I showed up on his doorstep to apologize and to try and reconstruct the bridge. There were 2 brothers. One of them was blown away. He said, I have never had a customer show up the way you've shown up, literally, like he was ready to open the door because he saw that I was willing to own my mistakes. I was willing to apologize. I was willing to display the high character to say, can we put this relationship back together? His brother was like, nope, fool me once. And I can't be mad at Dom about that.
Right.
Because I understand he needs to protect himself. I just think that I know that I'm not the average individual, and he has a rule that he lives by to protect himself from the average individual, because most people will blow a lot of smoke up your ass and then show they're the same snake that they always were.
Yep.
I'm not. I made mistakes. I learned. I grew to the point that was the gesture. I drove 5 hours to show up on their doorstep to say, I'm not the average person. And it made an impression on one brother and not the other. And I wasn't able to put the relationship back together. It might be one of those, knowing what I know now, I regret it that I wished that it could have, should have, and could have been different, but
Right.
It is what it is. No, I don't beat myself up about it. You asked the question and it just brought up old thoughts that there was a time that 5 years later, I tried to go back and literally right a wrong. And I live with myself just fine, but they didn't want to rebuild that bridge. And you know what? I'm fine with it. And I understand. And it's because of human nature that, yeah, you should be more disciplined to protect yourself, protect your space, and have your boundaries. And sometimes that means you're going to lose out on good relationships with good people. But the reality is the vast majority of the time you're doing the right thing by protecting yourself and just cutting it off.
Yep. So what was the process of like picking the beans, and did you know what you wanted, or like was it a lot of trial and error?
I'm going to be very candid. I took a lot of input and direction from another coffee shop that was willing to. I found them in Ohio because I was starting in Indiana. They saw me as no threat.
Right.
I paid for consulting, and this was the path they led me down.
Okay.
After I let them lead me down that path, I was unsure about whether I liked my own coffee. I have since fallen in love with my own coffee and then did the research to find out that my chosen coffee beans are in fact the choice coffee of the coffee snobs, the people that are the respected professionals in the industry. They know all of the assortments of coffee, and the vast majority of them default back to a specific bean. And I found out that the bean that I had chose was their preferred, and I'm like, well, if it's good enough for the tasters themselves, and it is a very good bean, you know, it's a medium roast, smooth yet flavorful. I hear some people complain that some coffees are weak, and that one of our major competitors, that theirs is over roasted and burnt. And I will tell you that the over roasted and burnt, it's by design. That is the flavor profile they want. And I didn't want to be like them, but I didn't want weak coffee.
Right.
What we have is right there in the middle, and it's a medium roast, smooth yet flavorful. I love it. I am so addicted to it. I need it in my life every day. But it was I took direction from somebody else and then circled back around to do the research to understand why they directed me down that path, to gain a deeper understanding of the bean, the roasting, the industry as a whole.
So it was the same way with espresso? Did they also like help you with that?
They did, but once I switched roasters,
you switched the bean.
The thing is that generally house coffee is a single origin bean, one bean. Generally, espresso is multiple beans mixed together. Upon leaving my original roaster, I had to replicate the flavor profile. So with the new roaster helped me replicate that flavor profile. And it's a 4-bean mix. So I ended up having to educate myself about all of the flavor profiles and the different beans that go to mix together to make up our Junkiez espresso. And it became a learning process. I didn't actually get into that until almost a decade into the business as a whole. But it was like, I knew my house coffee was a single bean, and I knew that my espresso was a multi-bean mix, and I didn't know anything more than that until I had to replicate the multi-bean mix. And then I started getting deeper, going down that rabbit hole to understand all of the little pieces to roasting and mixing for flavor profiles. It all comes back to mixology. But yeah.
So the house coffee just transferred the same when you switched roasters, but the espresso you had to kind of... Yeah,
and the bean itself is the same, but there's 2 different ways that you can roast a bean. So it's generally the same. Is it identical? No, because they roast differently. But it's the same bean, same flavor profile itself. But when we changed over, there was a noticeable change. Even trying as much as all of the testing to replicate that flavor profile, we were not. It wasn't an exact replication. And I brought in, as I remember, we called him 8-Shot Dave. This dude would get 2 8-shot cappuccinos every morning. And as I remember, it was regular cappuccinos with cinnamon on top. But the point being, he was so attuned to the flavor profile of the espresso. I brought him in as a taster as we were making the transition. And what we got out of him was that what we went to was actually smoother. And even looking back today, I think that might have been a mistake, because most people think espresso and they think about the bite of espresso, that I almost want to say tartness. Our espresso is a lot smoother than most people's espresso. So if you are used to that very strong espresso, you'll come have ours and you'll think that it's weak. It's not weak. It has the same or more caffeine content in it, but it is a smoother blend of beans in general.
That's fair. I feel like ours is decently strong though.
Again, comparatively.
Yeah.
If you,
I don't drink a lot of other coffee.
No, that's what I was about to say. If you went and you got anybody else's espresso,
Yeah.
and side by side and compared, you would find that ours is a lot smoother flavor profile in general.
Okay. Well, I guess it's your turn. I'm
That's
a
it.
lot of questions.
No, you're fine. Honestly, this should be almost an interesting answer. Skyler, why do you choose to work for me?
I work for you because there's always opportunity to grow and to learn new things. Mostly growing as a person. Like, I don't think that I would be where I am or who I am without this place. That's having, you and Matt as leaders that have taught me the right way, and that's also with having leaders that I'm glad that I didn't listen to. But there's not a time that I've worked here that I haven't learned something new and also grown as a person.
Very fair. That's change is inevitable, and I've never been afraid of change and always been willing to test, and out of that comes growth.
Yeah.
Why should other people patronize Coffee Junkiez and Pizza Junkiez?
I would say number one, for the options, because there's no way that you can walk in here and look at either menu and not find something that you like.
It's a double-edged sword.
Right.
Because so many people are like overwhelmed by the options.
Yes.
And it's like, if you just look the list and find one thing that just jumps out at you and go with that. But yes,
that's exactly what I did. The first thing I ever tried was the toasted marshmallow. It's still one of my favorites.
Is it really?
Yeah. I like my, I don't like coffee super, I kind of more simple. I'm very just like vanilla. Yeah, the options, and then I think really just feeling at home. Maybe the first time we don't recognize you, but the second, third, fourth time, you're gonna know that we know you. And you just don't get that a lot of places anywhere. I feel like every time you walk in, you're just a number somewhere else. So.
No, and that was because I've long said the two most powerful things you can say to somebody: do you want your usual? And hi, Frank, do you want your usual?
Yeah.
So it was very much a build it into the training program, because I still believe people want to be loyal to something.
Yep.
But giving somebody one reason to be loyal to something is not good enough in this day and age.
Yep.
You've got to give them 10 reasons.
Yep.
And if you give them those 10 reasons, they will in fact display loyalty. But yes, it does start with learning their name and learning their drink. That it's giving them a reason to be loyal to.
Yep.
And I know that you've seen that some good relationships that you've built in 30, 60, and 90-second increments.
Yep.
But it all came off of taking an interest in memorizing what they actually got.
Yep.
And learning their name first and foremost.
Yeah. Whenever I have newbies in the window, I make sure to stand next to them. I'm like, this is them. I'm like, this is their loyalty number, so that they still are like, okay, there's somebody new in the window, but you still know me.
And if we can replicate that, we will continue to be successful and continue to grow.
I agree.
Skyler, thank you very much for doing this.
No problem. It was fun.
All right. Till next time, have a great day. Powered by Coffee Junkiez and Pizza Junkiez.